A video. We got that 2000 Accord. This is the one that it was basically a crank no start, and the timing shaft, either the pin on it or the camshaft. I don't know why I'm saying timing shaft. Either the pin on the sprocket or the camshaft itself were snapped, and when you turn the key, the car would not start. The customer had a new engine put into it, so it is up and running again. And it's good to see this old Accord back on the road. You know, a lot of people scrap them, but it's a good car, so happy to see it fixed again. Okay, so we are in a 2000 Ford Mustang. It's the one that I just did the back brakes on. A customer was driving and the car just shut off on her, so she had to get it towed home. So here's the situation. It's a crank no start, as you can see. And I'm here looking at fuel pressure and all kinds of stuff like that. So it looks like it's barely building up any pressure. Let me cycle the key again. Yeah. Let me see if the door, some cars when you open the door, I don't think this one is, but no, okay. So cycling the key, not really getting fuel pressure. Okay, since we're here already, let's just manually check for fuel pressure, see if anything comes out. And absolutely nothing. It just like dribbles out at best. Alright, so definitely no fuel pressure. Here we have my neighbor's 2000 Ford Mustang. It's with the one with the suspected bad fuel pump. We have no fuel pressure at the rail. You could push the Schrader valve, nothing comes out. The car is reading half a tank of gas on the gauge. If I command the fuel pump on, I could hear it whining back there. So I know it's not a blown fuse. It's not likely a wiring problem at this point. So all I've done right now is I've disconnected the fuel filter from the rest of the system. It's still connected to the gas tank, so it's still in line with the fuel pump, and I have this rubber hose coming off of it. So let's turn on the fuel pump and see if anything comes past the filter. Okay, so I don't know if you could hear that, but the pump is running and we're not getting anything out of here. Turn this off. So my next step is to disconnect the fuel filter and see if we get anything out. Maybe it's clogged, who knows. Okay, so I've disconnected the filter from the rest of the line. So if there is any fuel coming out of this pump, we should see it spray out of this line right here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the pump on right now. I'm sure you could hear that pump running right now, and still we are not getting anything. Turn it off. So either at this point it's either a bad fuel pump or the gas gauge is not reading correctly, which I doubt. Customer says it works. And if the gas gauge was reading incorrectly, maybe no gas. But even if there was a little bit of gas in the tank, I would expect it to at least sputter or do something, but absolutely nothing out this line. So before I pull out the old pump, I'm just going to check the current of it. Let's go ahead and turn the pump on. Pump is now running, and that doesn't look too bad to me. There's some spots that seem low, like maybe like dead spots. Alright, let's keep on trucking forward. As you can see, I got the fuel tank down, and what's not very encouraging is that the tank honestly feels like it's empty. It feels like there's almost nothing in here. I know these tanks are small to begin with, so what's reading on half a tank probably isn't a lot because it's a small tank, but I mean, this feels like an empty tank. And I actually just had the customer over here, and I was asking him like, hey, your fuel gauge is reading about half a tank. I told him, does your gas gauge work? And she was like, yeah, I think so. Like, are you sure? Because if we drop this tank for no reason and it turns out the car just has no gas in it, well. And sure enough, there's no gasoline in here. The car won't start because it's there's no gas. Oh my god. I just love when people don't even know if their car has gas or not. You know, it's afloat. Because the car was reading half a tank. My scanner, you saw my scanner said close to about half a tank of gas. So at very least, maybe we came in here to fix the fuel gauge. But this really sucks, big time. And I told the customer, well, if you want, go get a small tank of gas and just pour it in here. We'll see if it starts. And he was like, no, I don't got a tank and I don't got time to go get gas. Alright. Okay, so I've already installed the new fuel pump and the fuel filter. And right now, well, everything's put back together. Right now I'm just obviously putting gas in it. At first, the customer wanted to put the old pump in it, you know. But I told her I don't recommend it because what if this happens to you again? What if you think you have gas because the fuel gauge is intermittently acting up? You know, so if this happens to you again in the future, you don't know you're on empty, but you know you really are. At very least, it's going to cost you a tow truck, so it's going to keep costing you money. It was the original pump in the car, so that's going on 20 years, okay? It's a 20-year-old pump. We're in here, you might as well change it, you know, out of maintenance as well as that filter. So I was able to change her mind, and we put the new pump and filter in. As you can see, we're putting the gas in it, so it should start up. I've already cycled the key a few times to prime up the pump and everything. Check for leaks, there aren't any, so it should start. There's gasoline in it. And here we go. Alright, shut it off. It works. So really all the car needed was gasoline. And you know what? When I was looking at my scope and I saw that waveform, I was trying to justify a bad pump, talking about, yeah, it does look kind of low or bad in some spots. No, looking back at the footage, it looked like a good waveform, and I should have just trusted my gut feeling and, you know, just stick to what I was initially thinking, that it's a good waveform, the pump's good, looks good. So it would have been nice to save the customer some money here. But the upside is it was going on, what, maybe like a 20-year pump. And the fact that she was having, obviously, intermittent problems with the fuel level sensor, it's probably best if she got it changed out anyway, you know, just for maintenance purposes. But like I said, it would have been nice to save the customer the money. Another lesson learned for me: when I see something, just go with my gut feeling. You know, that waveform looked good. So, but that's it. It's all put back together. It works. Customer could get their car back, and hopefully they get many more years out of this fuel pump. Alright guys, we are in, oh shit, okay, literally no brakes. Alright, it's wide here, the brake pedal goes all the way to the floor, and I'm actually pushing it all the way down. Right now the car will not stop. Okay, so looking underneath the Saturn, you can see, get this to focus, I have one of my union fittings right there. We come a little bit further back, and the other line is right there. And these are the lines I put in. Just kind of bends, goes behind this plate, comes up on this side, and it goes all the way to the front of the car, straight to the ABS module. And right now I'm in the process of bleeding the brakes. You can see my two lines here, one on the left side, one on the right side. So here I have a Ford Focus, and I'm changing a serpentine belt. This came here just to do an oil change today, but I noticed that the belt was in such bad condition it's ready to snap. So I told the customer about it, and we are replacing the belt. As you can see, I'm in the middle of doing it. The problem here is I noticed once I got the belt off that one of the pulleys is no good, which is this. So I can get a light. This idler pulley right here. It's hard to tell, but it's made out of plastic, and you can see how it's deformed. And that's what's causing the belt to do this. But has to get done today. I doubt I'm gonna be able to get that pulley today, so I'm just gonna slap the new belt on and let the customer know about it, and tell them they should get that pulley changed ASAP. Here we have a 2016 Lincoln MKC. The customer complaint is a very subtle noise while pushing the brakes. I checked the front brakes, everything looks great over there. The pads are a little low, but nothing major. But the back, you can see the rotors have plenty of grooves already in them, and the brake pads, it's hard to see, I don't got good lighting, but the brake pads are pretty low back here, especially when you look at, you know, the thickness of a new brake pad. So we're gonna change the back brakes today and see if the noise persists. If it does, we'll keep looking, but I think this is where the noise is coming from. So I'm assuming by putting it in service mode, it now lets me push the piston in, as you can see. Now I didn't try to push the piston in before putting it into service mode. I'm not sure if it would have worked. But I guess when I go on the other side, I'll try it. Okay, so one quick note here. After you hit the the maintenance button, and it's gonna say continue at the bottom, but it also says to perform the work. Make sure you do not hit continue, because once you hit continue, the car tries to push that piston back out again, thinking that you're done with the job. So all I did was lock the screen and put the scanner aside, finish the job. So you don't want to do that because you don't want it to push that piston out. I'm not sure if this motor can push the piston like 100% out and pop it out, but you don't want to find out the hard way. Just as I suspected, I'm on the other side of the car, and it will not let you push the piston in without putting it into service mode. Okay, so now, I know this stuff is kind of irrelevant because in theory you should have your car in service mode before you even start taking this apart. But what's that you say? Curiosity killed the cat. And there you go, as you can see, now I can turn the piston in. This just happened right now. I was using the air hammer to get a rotor off, and it just snapped. The best thing about it is I got it on camera, so I have a video up of it happening soon. Now that everything is put back together, we could go ahead and hit the continue button and see what this thing does. And there we go. It's all done. You can see how it pushed the pads in, released a little bit, and then pushed in again. It's just setting the electric parking brake. But pretty much that's it. And this is still crazy. Here we have another Nissan Murano. It came in on the hook last night because of a coolant leak, which ultimately led to overheating. Here goes the part we're going to replace. And here it goes right here. You could actually see the hole in the pipe. So that's where it's leaking antifreeze from. Personally, I would have just driven the car over here and maybe, you know, occasionally pull over and add coolant to it. You know, ain't no need to pay for a tow truck. But it's weird because some cars that I get that don't need to be towed in, they get towed in. And then the ones that should be towed in are the ones that the customers decide to drive over here. So it's just how things go in this area. But it looks like a pretty straightforward job, and hopefully Dorman got this part right. I mean, it looks like it's kind of hard to mess up, but we all know how Dorman is. So let's see how well it fits. Dorman, you had one job. No, I'm just joking. It fit. No real problems. Everything lined up pretty good. It's all wet because I just finished spraying it with some brake parts cleaner to get my handprints off of it. Here's the old pipe. Just by touching it, it just fell apart, so you could see how bad condition it was in. But that'll be it for this one. Pretty easy job here. I'm just going to go ahead and put the panel back on, fill it up with antifreeze, bleed the system, and this one should be all set. Okay, so I retract what I said about driving the car over here. It's a good thing it got towed in because this thing was bone dry. It took a lot of coolant to fill it up. Right now I got it running. Obviously I'm trying to bleed the cooling system, and I kept this panel off just to keep an eye on it while it's running, and so far no leaks from any of the hoses, so it looks good.